I left a wonderful panel that you were a part of, the social media panel.
Yes.
You talked about sort of a lot of platforms that that you use now as an entrepreneur to get your message out. I know that you are also one of the Forbes sort of 30 under 30 entrepreneurs recently. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You're definitely
Thank you very much.
One of the people to be on the lookout for and to follow. Talk to me about the evolution of, and you're your own personal brand, and you've got your tentacles in different things. Talk to me a little bit about the evolution of Sandra Apia. Right up to Face2Face, and to the current project now, the Miss Sandra Apia show.
I love the word evolution because that's exactly what I've been for the past couple of years. But so I mean, I graduated from Syracuse University just about 3 years ago. And I was doing Face2Face Africa a little bit. I mean, Isaac and I, we started it. I was still in school when we founded it. But before I met Isaac and we started Face2Face, I thought I would be in Hollywood. I mean, I studied film and television and all that cool on-camera stuff in school. So that was really where I saw myself, going with my degree. But when I realized really my passion for Africa and the power of media, which I've sort of always been in that field, I saw a potential and opportunity there. And so it's been a very interesting journey since we launched Face2Face Africa. We started off very small. We started off online. We didn't know what the reception was going to be, but we just took our time with it, felt our audience out, just try to get a sense of how people are going to respond to it. And it's been great. It's been a very long journey for us, but very rewarding. A great experience. I've learned so much, and I continue to learn every day.
That's wonderful. Yeah. That is wonderful, and it's because of your wonderful work that you've been featured on Forbes.
Yes, it was unexpected, but thank God for that. That's great.
And please enlighten us about the, so you're, Forbes listed you and Isaac, your partner, as one of sort of the 30 under 30 African entrepreneurs to be in sort of on the lookout for.
Best young entrepreneurs.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you feel about that kind of recognition?
Really, I mean, when I heard the news, I was just like, oh my God, because I think we get so much involved with our work that we lose focus on what is going on out there, and really if people are paying attention to what you're doing. So that was sort of validation that, listen, you guys are on the right course, and people are paying attention, and people like Forbes have heard about what you're doing, and they see the importance of what you're doing. So what it did was really just inspire us. We don't take it for granted. It's not like, oh my God, I'm on Forbes, so I'm like special now or whatever. It just makes our work much harder, because we know that we have big shoes to fill, and we have a lot of people are looking forward to everything that we have going and are watching us. So it just makes the responsibility a lot bigger, but we're up for it and we're excited.
Wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about you were just on a social media panel, and you're an expert in sort of how you can leverage social media to position yourself and to get your message out. Let's talk about some of the ways that you've done it within maybe the context. You can give an example with Face2Face Africa, and you've done it successfully.
Yeah. We have an online division, Face2FaceAfrica.com, and that's our daily updated online news and information portal. So we're constantly, updating articles on social issues, developments, projects going on the continents that deals with the diaspora. So that is really our social media platform is that website, Face2FaceAfrica.com, and also we have our Facebook. We have a large following on Facebook, Twitter, and so we try to utilize all these outlets, out there. And what that does is it maximizes our reach. So people have different ways of getting to us and receiving information from us. We don't take social media for granted, and I would tell anybody out there, I was just having a conversation with a young lady who said she wants to start her business, but she doesn't have any capital. And I told her, you don't need to have capital. You have social media. Get the idea going, and once you start, the resources will come from the right place. It's just about people being aware of what you're doing, and if it's important and unique enough, then you can kick off without even having a dime. That's the story of Face2Face Africa.
Absolutely. Let's talk a bit about it's sort of your message about telling our stories, Africa for Africa, Africans telling our own stories, and that's sort of the platform that you've sort of created for yourself.
Absolutely.
And it is for that reason that you've been recognized in terms of, on sort of the Forbes platform. And it's, and we were talking a little bit earlier, one of the reasons why you're working on a new show now, the Miss Sandra Apia show, again, sort of trying to continue this momentum of telling our own news stories. Let's talk about the Sandra Apia show a bit.
For me, everything that we're doing at Face2Face is very personal, okay? And I say that because I grew up here really not being proud of who I was as an African, and part of that was because I didn't understand what it meant to be an African. And it took me having to go back to Ghana, which is where I'm from, a few years ago when I was in school, to reconnect with that and remind myself of why it's special to be an African. And I mean, growing up here, it was the perceptions and portrayal of Africa in the media that made me that created that disconnect between myself as a person of African descent, person born on the continent, and really what's going on there. So I knew, growing up, when I went back to Ghana and I came back, that trip transformed me. I was a totally different person, and I knew that I had to play a role in telling Africa's story and providing a platform for people of African descent to be able to start our own discourses on what is going on the continent. And so for me, it's very personal because that's a very shameful part of my life growing up here, and it really influenced my confidence and who I was, and I was very unhappy at that point. I mean, when you lose connection with who you are, that's detrimental. It affects your mentality. And so I'm very glad that I was able to break away from that, but unfortunately not a lot of people are able to do that. And so what I want to do is to provide a platform, and I'm not ashamed to say that I grew up ashamed of being African. And if anybody out there is watching and feels the same way or went through the same thing, my show and Face2Face Africa, what we're doing is to really remember them, that listen, you have everything to be proud of. There's so much potential, so much development. Africa is the future, and it is who you are. You just can't run from that.
That's exciting, and that's very, very sort of liberating too, to hear that there are platforms like yours that are really about just taking back the control
Absolutely.
From the way that we're viewed in the mainstream media outlets. And your show, it sounds like you'll continue to sort of get that message out. Who are some of the kinds of people you'll have in your show?
My show, the Sandra Apia show, really seeks to bring the diaspora to Africa and Africa to the diaspora. So I will be talking to interesting personalities here in the States and Europe with a link to Africa. So you don't necessarily have to be an African. You don't necessarily have to be on the continent. As long as you're doing something that puts Africa in a positive perspective, I'm interested in your story. And there's so much story and content from that arena here. And so I will be talking to some of our celebrities and our personalities, like Miss USA is actually South African, and a lot of people, don't know that, the current Miss USA. And so I'm looking for people like that. She's doing a lot of work in South Africa, but we don't know about that. Alec Weck, she's based here in New York. Great story. I'm interested in talking to her and sharing her story with, this new generation of people of African descent. So that's just a little bit of what I want to do with the show.
Well, thank you so much for sitting with us
Thank
today.
you.
Congratulations on your Forbes, Forbes recognition, and
Thank you so much.
We're excited for the Miss Sandra Apia show. I know you're filming next week.
Yes, we are.
When
We're excited.
we expect, and where should we see it?
Okay, so we're launching the season this summer. It's going to be, we're sort of working out all the details, but for now, people can get information on it when they go to the website, sandraapia.com. And you get all the details, and if you're in Africa, where you can see it, or if you're here, where you can watch it when it launches in the summer.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wonderful talking to you.